Let's now move on. The CIA Director John Brennan has defended the torture program implemented by the agency after the 9/11 attacks in the United States.
As to the issues on which we part ways with the committee, I have already stated that our reviews indicate that the detention and interrogation program produced useful intelligence that helped the United States thwart attack plans, capture terrorists, and save lives.
Brennan made those remarks following a scathing Senate report that said the CIA's brutal torture techniques like waterboarding were ineffective. Brennan said the U.S. spy agency did a lot of things right at a time when there were fears of more attacks on America. While Brennan was defending his agency in a rare press conference, Senator Dianne Feinstein, who heads the committee that produced that report, rejected his arguments. Tuesday's Senate report said the agency deliberately misled the American people and politicians over its torture program. To discuss that further, I'm joined by Webster Tarpley, who is an author and historian, and he's joining us on the line now from Washington. Mr. Tarpley, as always, thanks very much for joining us here on PressTV. Now, I'm wondering how you feel about this defense that not only the CIA is putting up, but in fact many right-wingers as well in the United States of this quote-unquote torture techniques that had been used.
Well, I have to first of all reject the premise of all of this debate, which is the official story of 9/11. That's what it all goes back to, and that involves Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the mastermind, and Ramzi bin al-Shib, the rear echelon, and similar fairy tales. That's a complete manufactured, fictitious story about how this all came about. But let's look now at what we have that's new, which is this report about CIA torture. I would stress, first of all, the tremendous number of omissions. There is nothing in here about the torture carried out by the Department of Defense. This is only about the CIA torture, and that's, of course, a big story, 1,600 pages. But the Pentagon torture story would probably be bigger, things like Abu Ghraib. There's also the question of renditions, the term that they use for kidnappings, where people would be plucked out of Milan, Italy, let's say, and then taken to Poland or Egypt for other kinds of torture. Nothing about any of that. Now, the big problems then begin with the fact that there are no prosecutions. That is not a matter for this report, but it's accompanied by guarantees that none of these people is ever going to be held accountable. This man Brennan, who was standing there, should by rights have been in jail. He should have been preparing his defense on criminal charges, but he's not. So there are no prosecutions, not of George Tenet, the head of the CIA, not of Dick Cheney, the vice president, not of Addington, Cheney's right-hand man, not of Condoleezza Rice, not of George Bush. None of them will ever answer in court for this. That is already a violation of the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention says that torture is a war crime. It is banned, and if it's committed, that has to be punished. It has to be prosecuted. Even worse, not only are there no indictments, but there are no firings. Again, Brennan, who is standing there with his posturing and hypocrisy, is somebody who could be fired. Obama could at least fire him, but he won't do it. Same thing goes for the head of the FBI, Mr. Comey, who was also part of these machinations. So even these relatively minor forms of punishment are not being carried out. The biggest problem with the report is it has no implementation. There are no institutional changes proposed, and it simply means that there's no punch to this. It has no bite. It's simply a series of historical accounts that will not have any effect on the CIA or the FBI today. I would propose the John F. Kennedy method of reforming the CIA. Before his death, Kennedy was quoted 50 years ago plus now that he wanted to smash the CIA into 1,000 pieces. And I think that might be the starting point for reform of these institutions. In the meantime, the people who are going to be left holding the bag are U.S. military, mainly low level. The question is, will they be defended by the Geneva Convention? If they are now captured, since the United States has in effect repudiated the Geneva Convention by not living up to these provisions, will the individual GI, the guy who joined because he has no job opportunities in Appalachia or wherever he is, or the inner city, is that GI going to be covered by the Geneva Convention now that the
Mr. Tarpley, I do
leadership of the
apologize for
United
interrupting you,
States
but
has
unfortunately we'll have to
repudiated
leave
it?
it there for now. But of course, as always, we do sincerely appreciate you speaking to us here at Press TV. That was Mr. Webster Griffin Tarpley, who was speaking to us live on the line from Washington.